For a while, my life was a picture-perfect postcard, a modest but cheerful two-story home in the suburbs of Portland, with a swing set in the yard and crayon smudges on the refrigerator. My husband, Ethan, a mechanical engineer who believed duct tape could solve any problem, came home on time and was a doting father to our two boys, Leo and Noah. And me, Chloe, a 32-year-old full-time mom whose biggest concern was getting the boys to eat their vegetables and making sure everyone was tucked in by 8. From the outside, it looked like we had it all. And for a long time, I believed we did, until Ethan's mother, Elara, started to help. Elara was a masterpiece of social performance. To the world, she was elegant, a pillar of the community, the kind of woman who wore pearl necklaces and hosted charity luncheons. For the first year of our marriage, I tried to see her that way too. But a person's true character is revealed in the small, unseen moments. And Elara had perfected the art of weaponizing kindness. I still remember the first meal she ever served me at their house in Spokane. Ethan got a thick ribeye steak with rosemary butter, his father, David, got grilled salmon, and I got a small plate of steamed vegetables and a watery broth that smelled faintly of dishwater. "You're watching your figure, right, dear?" Elara had said, her smile as perfect and unfeeling as a church directory photo. I hadn't said a word about my weight, but I smiled and thanked her, the moment setting a cold, unsettling precedent for every visit that followed. The small acts of malice started to pile up like a cairn of stones. If she made hot cocoa for the boys, mine would be accidentally left out. At Christmas, while everyone else got gourmet chocolates, I'd get a dusty, off-brand candy bar. She would deliver a backhanded compliment like a poison dart. "It must be so hard not working, but at least the kids have someone around." Always with that same unnerving smile. Ethan never noticed. Or maybe he just didn't want to. "She means well," he'd say every single time. "That's just how she shows love." Love. Like the time she gifted me a subscription to a weight loss meal service, or when she posted a photo of her 3 favorite people at Leo's birthday party, Ethan, David, and the birthday boy, with me meticulously cropped out of the frame. Still, I told myself I could handle it. She didn't live with us. Ethan was on my side even if he didn't fully see it. And then came the chocolate. It was a long weekend visit to Spokane. One afternoon, while Ethan and David ran errands and the kids were napping, Elara appeared at the patio door holding a dainty porcelain plate. "I brought you something sweet," she said. "Belgian truffles, a treat for a tired mama." I hesitated. The chocolates were a dull, matte brown. One had a slightly crushed corner, but I took one, thanked her, and put it in my mouth. The taste was dusty and bitter, with a sickening crunch that didn't belong. "Yours is special," Elara said, her eyes fixed on me, a flicker of cruel anticipation in them. "I saved that one just for you." A cold dread settled in my stomach. I quickly wrapped the remaining truffles in a napkin, mumbling that I'd save them for later. Elara didn't object. An hour later, the cramps hit. A sharp, stabbing pain bloomed in my stomach. I barely made it to the downstairs bathroom before collapsing onto the cold tile floor, shaking and nauseous. Ethan found me 30 minutes later, pale and clammy. "Something I ate," I muttered. He helped me upstairs, but I didn't tell him about the chocolate. Not yet. The next morning, while taking out the kitchen trash, a crumpled candy wrapper caught my eye. It was old-fashioned, a white foil with unfamiliar lettering. I pulled it out with the tip of a spoon and flattened it on the counter. Best Buy, December 2012. It was 2022. I stared at the date, my throat dry, my blood running cold. She hadn't just given me an expired chocolate. She'd given me one that expired 10 years ago. It wasn't a mistake. It was a message. I kept the wrapper, slipping it into the pocket of my jeans like a secret. I didn't know what to do with it. But throwing it out felt wrong. That night, after the kids were asleep, I told Ethan. He squinted at the wrapper, turning it over in his hands as if the truth might be hiding on the other side. "She probably didn't realize," he said, handing it back to me. "It's not like she checks the dates on everything." I felt my patience thinning. "Ethan, it wasn't just expired. It was ancient. It crumbled in my mouth. She's been doing this for years. The little things. It's never been an accident." He sighed, rubbing his eyes. "Maybe she was cleaning out the pantry and it got mixed in." His suggestion was a desperate grasp at plausible deniability. She said it was just for me. I stared at him, my voice dangerously quiet. Are you saying you don't think she did this on purpose? He looked uncomfortable, cornered. Look, even if she did, what are you going to do? Accuse her? She'll just say it was a mistake, and then we'll have drama for months. I swallowed my anger, a bitter taste on my tongue. He wasn't just defending his mother, he was defending his own denial. He wasn't ready to confront the monster he had grown up with. Allie, I love you, but you're turning this into something it might not be, he said, using my old nickname. I didn't reply. I just stared at the wrapper in my hand. That was it. I was on my own. The next morning, I called my brother, Liam. He's 2 years younger than me, a software developer in Sacramento, and the only person in the world who truly understood my no-nonsense approach to life. I told him everything, the years of microaggressions, the carefully curated slights, the photo cropping, the weight loss gifts, and finally, the rancid chocolate. There was a long silence when I finished. You need to set up cameras, he said, his voice calm and resolute. What? I asked. Hidden ones. Cheap, easy to use. You're going back there sometime, right? He'd read my mind. I hadn't told him about it yet, but Elara had just invited us to a rental on Whidbey Island for a long weekend in 2 weeks. She's invited us to a cabin, I said. Perfect, he replied. This isn't a crime drama, Liam. He laughed softly. Maybe not, but if she's really doing what you think she is, you need proof, especially if Ethan's still in denial. He was right, and I hated that he was right. 3 days later, a small box arrived at our house. Inside were 5 button-sized cameras, a portable rotor, and a note in Liam's familiar scrawl. Don't wait for another chocolate. Record everything. I stared at the gear, the tiny lenses winking up at me. It felt like I was holding an arsenal of truth. That evening, Ethan came home looking pleased. Mom says the Whidbey place has 2 guest rooms and a deck with a view. She even booked a private chef for Saturday night. Of course she did. He blinked, confused by my lack of enthusiasm. What's that supposed to mean? I smiled thinly. Nothing. But in my mind, I wasn't packing swimsuits anymore. I was packing evidence. Whidbey Island in April was a damp, moody paradise, wrapped in a soft blanket of mist and the clean scent of pine. The cottage Elara had rented sat at the edge of the woods with a winding gravel drive, 2 porches, and an air of quiet seclusion. She greeted us on the front porch, the picture of humble elegance in a quilted vest and a white turtleneck. Her husband, David, stood behind her, a neutral nod and a thermos in his hand, a man who had long since learned to be a ghost in his own home. It's so good to see you all, Elara cooed, reaching to hug the boys before a quick, possessive touch on my shoulder. Chloe, you look rested. I smiled tightly. Thanks. So do you. Ethan dropped our bags inside, already preoccupied with helping the boys find their rooms. Elara gave us a tour of the cottage, which was barely 200 square feet. You and Ethan will be here. She gestured to a small room with bunk beds. The boys can share the bunks. She and David would take the master bedroom across the hall. The kitchen was open, with one long wooden dining table dominating the space. Very communal, she said with a sugary smile, just like a real family. The first night passed without incident. Dinner was simple: roast chicken, salad, and bread. Elara served everyone's plate except mine, which she handed to me last, a beat too late, a beat too intentionally. My plate was mostly steamed kale, with no chicken skin or roasted potatoes. I didn't say anything. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, I opened my overnight bag in the darkness of the small bedroom. I pulled out the pouch of equipment Liam had sent: 5 cameras, 3 chargers, and a pocket Wi-Fi router. The instructions were already committed to memory. I waited until the house was sound asleep, the snores from the master bedroom and the soft breaths of my children echoing in the quiet. Then I moved. The installation was a tense, silent ballet. Camera 1 was mounted in a corner of a kitchen cabinet, its tiny lens facing the prep counter. Camera 2 was tucked discreetly above the refrigerator, angled at the sink and trash can. Camera 3 was disguised as a coat hook in the hallway, its view encompassing Elara's bedroom door. Camera 4 was hidden in a decorative vase on the shared dining table. And Camera 5 was placed inside our bedroom, just in case. Everything synced to the cloud and my laptop, which I kept locked in our closet. By 2 a.m., the house was quiet again. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my heart thumping a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I felt like a spy in my own life. The next morning, Elara was already humming in the kitchen when I walked in. "Good morning," she chirped. "I let you sleep in." Ethan was outside with the boys, helping them hunt for bugs in the backyard. Elara poured me tea before I could ask. "I was thinking we could have a little lunch together, just the two of us." She opened a sleek paper box, revealing a colorful bento arrangement. "I picked this up from a boutique deli in town," she said, her voice dripping with affected sweetness. "Imported ingredients, very exclusive. You deserve something special." She placed it in the fridge, clearly labeled Chloe. I knew better than to ask if anyone else was getting one. I gave her a tight smile. "That's so kind of you." That afternoon, when the boys were napping and Ethan joined his dad for a walk, I slipped back into our bedroom and opened my laptop. My hands were shaking as I cued the kitchen footage, scrubbing backward until I found the timestamp. 10:46 a.m. The camera caught Elara alone, a pair of latex gloves on her hands. From her purse, she took out a small Tupperware container. Something dark and twitching was inside. I zoomed in, my blood running cold. A live cockroach. My stomach turned as I watched her reach in with tweezers, lift the insect gently, and nestle it into the bento's rice bed. She sprinkled sesame seeds over the top, smoothed the surface, and then she smiled. The camera caught the genuine, wicked glee on her face. I paused the video, closed the laptop, and sat on the floor, the cold dread turning into a boiling rage. I had prepared for weird, expired food, a hair in my soup, an allergy trap. But not this. This was intentional, calculated, and cold. She wanted me to eat it. She wanted me to scream. At dinner that evening, Elara announced her next surprise with theatrical flair. "I've arranged something special for our last night here," she said, her smile wide and self-satisfied. "Gourmet bento boxes from that same deli. I ordered one for each of us, but—" She turned toward me, her eyes gleaming with a familiar, dangerous glint. "Yours is custom." "Of course it is," I murmured, a cold calm settling over me. Ethan smiled absently, cutting chicken for our youngest. "They say they cost nearly $700 total," he said, shaking his head in a mixture of awe and disbelief. "Mom's really going all out." David didn't look up from his plate. He seemed to have perfected the art of silent endurance. After the boys had been tucked in, Ethan found me in the bathroom brushing my hair. "You okay?" he asked, his voice soft with concern. I met his eyes in the mirror. "Do you believe me now?" He looked confused. "About what?" I opened the medicine cabinet, pulled out the flash drive with the footage, and held it out. "Watch this, before dinner tomorrow." He sighed, weary and unseeing. "I'm tired, Allie, and you're overthinking this again. My mom has been trying so hard lately." His blindness was a physical weight between us. I didn't press. I just waited. The next day, just before dinner, Elara came into the living room carrying the boxes. She placed them on the table one by one, each tied with a golden string and labeled in perfect cursive. Ethan, David, Leo, Noah, and finally, Chloe. She handed me mine personally. "I asked them to make yours extra delicate," she said, her voice a low purr. "You always were a little sensitive." I took the box, my hand steady, and didn't open it. "Go on," she prompted, a malicious anticipation in her eyes. "I want to see your face." I smiled. "So do I." I stood, walked to the trash can, lifted the lid, and dropped the box in. Elara froze, her smile melting into a mask of shock. "What the hell are you doing?" Ethan said, jumping up from his chair. "That was $140, Chloe." David finally looked up, his face a mask of quiet resignation. Elara's voice pitched higher, a shrill, desperate sound. "That was made especially for you." I walked out of the room and returned with my laptop. "Let me show you what was especially made for me." I set the laptop on the dining table, right beside Elara's delicate floral teacup. My fingers didn't tremble. Not anymore. "Allie, what's going on?" Ethan asked. I ignored him and clicked play. The screen lit up with the grainy footage of the kitchen. The camera caught Elara's profile as she shut the door, slipped on latex gloves, and reached into her handbag. She lifted out a small black Tupperware container, clicked it open, and produced a pair of silver tweezers. On the screen, a roach writhed, its legs kicking and antennae twitching. A gasp echoed around the table. Leo, my oldest, covered his face with his hands. Ethan muttered, "Oh my God." And then came the part that made my blood boil. Elara smiling softly as she nestled the insect into the bed of rice, sprinkling sesame seeds over it, smoothing it down as if she was frosting a cake. I froze the frame. The room itself seemed to hold its breath. Elara was the first to break the silence. "This is absurd," she said, her voice sharp. "That footage could be anything. Someone edited it." "Really?" I tilted my head. "Edited from 3 different angles?" I pulled up the second camera positioned over the refrigerator. This one showed her side profile in crystal detail. The tweezers, the bug, the box with my name on it. Ethan pushed back from the table so suddenly his chair screeched across the floor. "Mom, no, please tell me this isn't what it looks like." Elara's lips pressed into a thin, tight line. For a moment I thought she might lie again, but something inside her snapped. Her face contorted, twisting into something raw and hateful. "She doesn't belong here," Elara hissed. "She's never belonged." David finally spoke, his voice calm but steel-cut. "Grace, she poisoned you, Tom." Elara spat, ignoring him. "From the moment you brought her home, she took you from me. She made you forget who sacrificed everything to raise you." Ethan's hands trembled. "That doesn't give you the right." Elara slammed her palm on the table, the teacup rattling. "I gave you life and she thinks she can waltz in here with her smug little smiles and her college degree." She jabbed a finger toward me, "and act like she's better than me. I wanted her gone, that's all." The boys whimpered, clinging to Ethan's side. My chest ached, but I forced myself to stay steady. "Gone how, Elara?" I asked. "By slowly feeding me trash? By trying to make me sick until I walked away?" She sneered. "If you were smart, you would have. But you're too stubborn. You always had to prove me wrong." David rose from his chair. His usually placid face was now etched with fury. "You tried to poison the mother of my grandchildren," he said, each word a measured accusation. "You endangered the children, who could have easily eaten from that box. You've disgraced this family beyond repair." Elara blinked as if slapped. "Richard, enough." He paid her no mind, his voice cracking like a gavel. He turned to Ethan. "Take Chloe and the boys. Go back to Seattle tonight. I'll handle her." Ethan nodded wordlessly, his face a mix of disbelief and shame, already gathering the boys into his arms. Elara screamed then, a shrill, desperate sound. "Don't you dare walk away from me, Thomas. I am your mother." But Ethan didn't turn back. Not once. We packed in silence, a chilling efficiency to our movements. By midnight, we were on the ferry back to the mainland, the boys asleep across the back seat. Ethan drove with his knuckles white on the steering wheel. Finally, he whispered, "I'm so sorry." I stared out at the dark water, the reflection of the moon a shaky sliver on the surface. "You should be," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "I didn't want to see it," he continued, a raw honesty in his tone. "I kept telling myself she just meant well. That's what she always told me." I finally turned to look at him. "She doesn't mean well, Ethan. She means harm. She has been for years." He swallowed hard. "I'll never let her near you or the kids again. I swear it." For the first time in years, I believed him. His denial was gone, replaced by a fierce, protective resolve. Our marriage, which had been slowly suffocating under the weight of his mother's control, was finally beginning to breathe again. The next morning, I walked into the local police station with the flash drive in my hand. The officer on duty, a woman named Officer Reyes, watched the footage. Midway through, she paused it. "Ma'am," she said, her expression serious, "this isn't just a family dispute. This qualifies as reckless endangerment and assault with intent to cause harm. Are you pressing charges?" "Yes," I said, without a moment's hesitation. The officer's face was grim. "Given the nature of the footage and the victim being a family member, we'll expedite this. Your mother-in-law is a danger to you and your children." Within a week, a restraining order was in place. Elara could not contact us, approach the boys, or step foot on our property. But of course she tried anyway. Blocked calls at midnight, emails from burner accounts with bizarre, rambling titles, handwritten letters with no return address. The words alternated between saccharine apologies and venomous rants. I only wanted what's best for my son. You'll regret turning him against me. I filed every single one of them with the police. Then David called. He sounded weary, but his voice was filled with a new, quiet strength. I filed for divorce, he said. Elara she's unraveling. She's banned cell phones from the house, says cameras are everywhere. She accuses neighbors of spying. She hasn't been rational for months. Chloe, I should have stepped in sooner. I closed my eyes, relief and sorrow tangled inside me. I'm sorry, David. Don't be, he said. You did what none of us could. You exposed her. 3 months later, I was at the grocery store when my phone buzzed. Blocked number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Chloe? Elara's voice was faint, raspy. Thank God you picked up. I didn't reply. I have nothing, she whimpered. David's gone. I can't pay rent. I can't buy food. Please, please. I didn't mean for it to go so far. I still said nothing. You're a mother, she sobbed. You know what it's like to sacrifice everything. I only did it because I loved him, because I couldn't lose him. Don't let me starve. I drew a slow breath, my hand steady on my phone. You wanted me gone, I said, my voice cold and clear. Now you are. Chloe, please. I cut her off. If you're hungry, I said, maybe try what you served me. And then I hung up. When I got home, Ethan was sitting on the porch swing, the boys tumbling in the grass nearby. He looked up as I approached. Everything okay? He asked. I smiled faintly. Better than okay. Because in that moment, with the sun on my skin and the sound of my children's laughter, I realized something. We were finally free. Not just because Elara was gone, but because her power over us, over me, was gone forever. 3 months later, a surprising call came through. It was Officer Reyes, the police officer from the precinct where I had filed the report. Mrs. Evans, she said, her voice a little different from our last conversation. I have some follow-up information regarding the case against Elara. It turns out your report was the final piece of a much larger puzzle. She explained that, after my report, the police had followed up on a series of similar but lesser-known incidents that had been dismissed as accidents or overreactions by others. A former colleague of Elara's who had suddenly fallen ill before a major promotion. A friend who had a severe allergic reaction to a dish Elara had prepared. A mysterious fire at a neighbor's house after a dispute over a shared fence. All of these incidents had been carefully logged and dismissed due to a lack of evidence or direct connection to Elara. Officer Reyes said my video had given them the smoking gun they needed to not only charge Elara with reckless endangerment, but also reopen and link the other investigations. It wasn't just a simple case of malicious poisoning. It was a deep-seated pattern of sociopathic behavior. The police had even found a small notebook in her home with a list of names and dates, each one meticulously crossed out, her twisted form of a hit list. My name was on it, right below the others. The food poisoning was just one of many different tactics she used. My report had finally exposed her. I hung up the phone, a strange sense of vindication washing over me. It was more than just a family drama. It was a criminal investigation, a lifetime of manipulation and quiet violence coming to light. A few weeks later, a news story broke about Elara. She had been apprehended and charged with multiple counts of assault and criminal mischief. The article featured her mugshot, the once elegant face now a portrait of haggard desperation. There were no pearls, no perfect smile, just a woman whose mask had been torn away. The following Sunday, as the boys played in the yard, I sat on the porch swing with Ethan. He had a look of quiet peace on his face that I hadn't seen in years. He was finally free from the invisible chains that had bound him to his mother's approval. "I'm so proud of you," he said, taking my hand. I smiled, a real smile this time, not the tight, practiced one I had used for years. We were more than just a family now, we were a team. A quiet strength had settled over our home, a sense of safety and truth that we had never had before. The crayon smudges on the refrigerator and the laughter of my boys now felt like a genuine, unfiltered testament to our perfect life. We had exposed the poison and built our own family on a foundation of trust. And for the first time in a very long time, I knew we were safe.